All right, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and the majority of the Democratic Party are having a difficult time not only selling this massive tax and spend package to the American people, but they're also having a tough time selling it to progressives in their own party. Plus, the House has voted to lift the debt ceiling, likely delaying that default showdown until early December. Joining us now for more on all of this is Pennsylvania Congressman and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman Dan Meuser. Congressman, good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you. Hey, if you're looking to go to outer space, just visit us in Washington. You'll find plenty of alien beings.
That's a good point. I try to avoid the swamp at all costs, but you make a very good point there. I want to talk about this resolution. You guys were able to put this together last night. It looks like we're going to be going through this again in less than 2 months on December 3rd. Why does this always happen in Washington? Why do we always kick the can down the road instead of actually getting something accomplished?
Well, a lot of mismanagement, a lot of sense of urgency that never develops, as well as they just simply needed the time because the Democrats, the far left and the extreme left, because that's what pretty much makes up the party these days,
right,
cannot agree. They can't come to terms. They can't do their reconciliation. And then there's the blame game, Rob. They want to pretend that somehow Republicans have something to do with this. Meanwhile, they are engaged in a spending of over $5 trillion of the taxpayers' money and saying to Republicans, hey, increase our credit card limit, but you have no say on how it's going to be spent. So it's a lot of, a lot of baloney going on, and the American public is sensing it, fortunately.
Yeah, so let me catch for people at home that are confused following along with what's been happening. So we've got that $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill that many Republicans and Democrats were able to agree on, but that bill is not going anywhere because the progressive part of the Democratic Party cannot agree with the moderate part of the Democratic Party to separate the two bills. They want the $3.5 trillion bill lumped in with that $1.2 trillion bill. There, I said it. What do you think actually ends up happening here? Because at some point, the Democrats are going to need something to run on come November 2022.
Well, you laid it out precisely. And the thing is this, it's not about agreeing. The extreme left is now in control. Joe Biden, 2 Fridays ago, went over to the Capitol, came here where I am, and completely surrendered to the far left by saying, you know what, the American people want transportation infrastructure. It's a reasonably good bill, but we're not going to do it because we're going to hold it hostage. We are going to wait and do what the high-end progressives want us to do and spend $5 trillion of entitlement funds, which, by the way, it's not just entitlement funds. It's complete social engineering. It's all about this whole attempt to achieve equity. And this is what's causing all the disruptions in our economy already before they've even spent this money. Our supply chains are due to all these government disruptions. Our inflation is due to this, not having workforce availability.
Right.
And you know who's bearing the brunt of it, Rob? I'm on the Small Business Committee. Small business is getting crushed. And the Democrats have a plan to crush them even further with taxes and more regulations.
Yeah, and the names of the bills, too. The Democrats are now calling this bill the Build Back Better bill. Republicans are now finally, they've picked a name, and they're calling it the tax and spend bill, but it's been called human infrastructure. It's been called just infrastructure. It's got several names, which is confusing in and of itself. Nancy Pelosi was... I think it's time for a new Speaker of the House. I do think we'll get one come 2022. But
do too.
Nancy Pelosi was asked that. She was like, all right, fine. So if we have to kind of bring the cost of this bill down significantly, what can we cut first? Take a listen to what she said.
Well, let me just say that at $3.5 trillion, we were doing everything well. So not a question of now we're doing it well because it's less money. But the fact is that if there are fewer dollars to spend, there are choices to be made. And members have said, let's get the results that we need. But we will not diminish the transformative nature of what it is.
Okay, so no specific answer. And at minimum, they're going to have to diminish about $1.5 trillion. Why not start with almost $100 billion for the IRS? Joe Biden wants to hire agents to audit the American people to pay for this bill. Why not say, hey, we'll cut that?
Rob, I was Revenue Secretary for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's the exact wrong thing to do. If they're going to do anything, invest in processes, invest in IT, invest in quality of determining who is not paying their taxes, because everybody should pay their fair share. You don't hire 87,000 auditors to do nothing but harass primarily small business to somehow come away with some sort of return on that crazy investment.
Yeah.
It's the wrong way. It's the wrong way to go. They're going for broke here because, just as you said, they do know Nancy Pelosi is going to hand that gavel over because the American people have had it. Why would they be for supporting, doubling down on, and exasperating all the problems that we currently have? The problems at the border, the problems with the drugs throughout my constituency and throughout America, the problems with inflation, no workforce availability, no gifts available for Christmas because the supply chains have been so disrupted by the greatest disruptor of all, and that's when government gets in the way of the free market
Such
economy.
a good point. It could end up dooming these bills, by the way, ultimately. And I think you make a good point.
We can only
I
hope
think
so.
that, yeah, kids' toys this Christmas could be the new toilet paper. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out, but it could happen. Congressman Dan Meuser, thanks so much for your time. Great seeing you again.
You too. Thanks, Rob.
All right, stay with us. A lot more Wake Up America coming up right after the break. We'll be right back.